I didn't realize how loud silence could be until the entire first-class cabin stopped breathing and stared at me. Not whispered silence, not polite silence, the kind that presses against your ears and lets you know something ugly is about to happen. And all of it started because one woman looked at me, scanned my clothes, my skin, my posture, and decided I didn't belong in the seat I paid for. Yeah, that's how this story begins. It was early morning, still dark outside, rain streaking down the airport windows like the sky itself was tired. I was exhausted too. Hoodie on, hair pulled back sneakers I'd walked miles in. Nothing fancy. I'd learned a long time ago that when you look, ordinary people show you exactly who they are. I was flying home after the longest month of my life. Deals meetings, pressure, the kind of stress that sits in your chest even when you sleep. All I wanted was quiet, a door that slid shut. A few hours where no one needed anything from me. I boarded early, scanned my ticket, walked down the aisle toward the front. Seat 1A. Private suite. The one I booked weeks ago without hesitation because I needed space, not luxury. But when I got there, I stopped. Someone else was already sitting in it. Not confused, not apologetic. Settled. Bags everywhere, champagne already poured. Like the idea of being questioned had never crossed her mind. She was mid-50s, maybe perfectly styled, expensive jacket, tight smile. She looked up at me like I'd wandered into the wrong restaurant. I said, "Excuse me," soft, polite. She didn't even make eye contact. Just waved her hand and said, "Economy is in the back, sweetheart." I laughed a little at first, not because it was funny, but because I honestly thought she was joking. I checked my phone again, then said, "I think you're in my seat." That's when she looked at me. Really looked. Her smile disappeared. Her eyes did that thing people's eyes do when they think they figured you out. "This seat costs more than you probably make in a year," she said. "Move." I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. That memory of being talked over in meetings, followed in stores, assumed to be the assistant, the help, the mistake. I held up my phone. "I paid for it." "Seat 1A. She scoffed. Loud. With what someone else's credit card, the cabin started watching. Phones lowered, heads tilted. And then she pressed the call button like she was summoning backup. A flight attendant showed up fast. Tall guy, forced smile. He took one look at us and made a decision without asking a single question. He turned to her. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Then he looked at me like I was already a problem. "Can I see your boarding pass?" I showed him. Clear as day. My name, my seat. He hesitated for half a second, then said, "Looks like a system error." "It happens." I said, "No, it doesn't. That's my seat." He sighed, leaned closer, lowered his voice. "She's a high-status passenger. She's already comfortable. I can put you in another seat." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This was easier. Moving me was easier than confronting her. I asked him straight up, "So you're asking me to give up what I paid for because she doesn't want to move?" He snapped back. "You're causing a scene. A scene." I stood there quietly while she smirked and sipped her drink, and something inside me shifted. Not rage, clarity. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my second phone. Not flashy, not obvious. His tone changed immediately. "You can't use that." I looked at him and said, "I can." I made one call. That's it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten anyone. I just said who I was and what was happening. Within minutes, the plane stopped moving. Engines shut down, lights changed. The captain's voice came on confused, nervous. People started murmuring. The woman finally looked uneasy. Then everything escalated fast. The flight attendant panicked, started saying I was disruptive, that I made threats. The woman jumped in loud dramatic saying I was dangerous. Police boarded the plane. No questions. They grabbed me, cuffed me, dragged me toward the door while people watched. Some shocked, some relieved it wasn't them. I remember thinking, this is how quickly it happens. One accusation, one assumption. Right at the door, I told them to check my pocket. They hesitated. Then they did. The card changed everything. Hands came off me like I was suddenly untouchable. Apologies poured out. Radios crackled. People whispered. 10 minutes later, an airline executive showed up, pale, sweating out of breath. He walked past everyone and apologized to me, loudly, explained who I was, explained what had just happened. The cabin went silent again, but this time it felt different. The woman shrank into her seat. The flight attendant looked like he might throw up. I stood there and finally spoke. I said, if you had known who I was, you would have treated me with respect, but you didn't, and that's the problem. The flight attendant was fired on the spot. The captain was removed. The woman was escorted off the plane screaming, clutching her bags like they were the last pieces of her identity. We eventually took off with a new crew. I closed the door to my suite and sat there, heart-pounding, hands shaking. Not from fear, from release, from years of swallowing moments like that and finally not backing down. By the time we landed, the video was everywhere. Someone had filmed it. Millions of views, opinions flying from every direction. Some people said I went too far, some said it was overdue. And honestly, that's not the point. The point is this. The world is full of people who feel powerful because they think no one will challenge them, because they think they get to decide who belongs where. And most of the time they're right, because people stay quiet, because it's easier. So I want to ask you something. If you were standing where I stood being told you didn't belong somewhere you earned your way into, what would you have done? Would you have moved? Would you have stayed silent? Or would you have made them look at you again? Tell me in the comments. Tell me what you've seen, what you've lived, because stories like this don't change anything unless we keep talking about them.